Jamie.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
So fun to be with you in Dallas.
I know.
So you have a kind of a cool nickname.
Oh,
do
I
you
do?
know what it is?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I got to know where this came from.
Okay.
So not behind your back, but around you, you're known as the Queen of Katy.
Oh.
Have you ever heard that before?
Here and there.
The Queen of Katy,
Yes.
Texas. You were telling me about the pressures of being perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect family, never missing anything. And you described you rushing onto the football field. Tell me that again. How'd you find balance?
Funny, as we were talking earlier, one of the statements I made was that I never missed anything.
Yeah.
And so I made a very conscious effort. As I started real estate, my son was 3, my first son, and he kind of grew with me in the business. So he saw being slow, being busy, being really busy, starting the team. But my goal was never to really miss out on him and what he was doing. So I remember vividly, and I'm sure a lot of my friends could tell you, I would run to the football field because he played football his whole life. I'd have my dress to the nines, high heels on, name tag on. A little bit of it was because I had to, because I'm running there to get there to watch the game. But it was also to show people that I am a professional. That was just kind of how we lived, is everybody knew me as the real estate agent, but also as the mom of a football player.
So this notion of perfection is something that vexes lots of us high achievers like yourself. We're always trying to optimize everything. And I bet you hold yourself to a really high standard.
Yeah.
How did you get to everything? I fail at that.
We talked about not being in the moment. So I think a lot of it is maybe I was at the football game, but thinking about files or thinking about what I needed to do next, or I'm at a client's house thinking about something else. So it's just prioritizing what's going on. And it was just utter chaos in my brain.
Utter chaos in your brain.
Yeah, for many, 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 many years.
Yeah, but you were a symbol for your kids and for your community, and you showed up on the field, whether or not your head was working on 3 or 4 deals or 10 or 20 deals. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it is. I don't know that I'd recommend it, honestly, but it was a lot of pressure, yeah.
And I bet you've counseled a ton of folks
Yes.
on, balance is now in a little bit more than it was. When we were coming out, see how I just did that? We were coming up. I think I'm a little older than you, but when we were coming up, no one spoke of balance.
Right.
It was just produce.
Yeah, achieve,
family be gone. What do you counsel people on today on that?
Now that we have a team or people that I encounter, it's my whole thought process is I'd love for you, when you leave me, to be 2 years ahead. Like to skip all that hard stuff. So just hear me, feel me, know that I'm coming from a place of I did all this, I wouldn't recommend it. So instead of doing all that hard work, just fast forward, listen and fast forward and start 2 years later with me. So I just want to make sure that people don't miss that. And I really counsel my leadership team. I know they're tired of hearing me, but I'm like, don't miss your kids' events. Go to the PTA stuff, go have some fun, because life is life, but you've got to be in the moment and be there.
But I could miss that lead. I could miss that deal.
Yeah.
I could miss that phone call. What happens if I'm not in the office when Jamie expects me to be in the office and I'm at a PTA meeting? Is the sky going to fall?
No, the sky's not going to fall. We're just going to keep going.
Yeah. It keeps going, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're just going to keep going. Onward, upward, it's just going to keep going.
Yeah, there's a certain point in our careers and our lives where we realize all humans are fallible.
Yeah.
Even the iconic ones.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bit freeing in so many ways. So we're going to jump backwards, though. Okay, so there's a little Jamie kid running around somewhere. Where'd you grow up?
In Dallas.
Dallas, Texas. You're a real Texan.
Yep.
Were mom and dad at home together, both working, both married? Yeah, what was home like?
Yeah, it wasn't great. My mom was a teacher. My dad actually owned a butcher shop. He cut meat.
Okay.
They divorced when I was in 4th grade, and then we just kind of separated and really didn't speak to my dad, after that.
Okay.
I mean, pretty much after 4th grade, I kind of had to fend for myself. I think 8th grade was my first job, and I've been paying for myself since 8th grade.
Since 8th grade, you've been earning. Okay, so what was your 8th grade job?
It was really fun. I had to go, it's actually downtown Dallas, on the weekends from I remember being dropped off at 7 and not being picked up till 5. It was selling plants.
Selling plants?
Yeah.
Where were you selling plants?
Like downtown here. It was like this shop. And I I don't think it's there anymore, but it was like this outdoor plant shop where you could buy plants for your house, but also for outside the house or companies. And people would just come up to me and I'd pick out plants for them and sell them and they'd tip me. And I made quite a bit of money for 8th grade.
You did for 8th grade?
Yeah, it was great.
Okay. And so paint the play out. Did you have a favorite plant you went to? Was there a high margin plant? Was there a low margin plant?
Yeah, we always sold the expensive plants. And I was 8th grade. So it's like I didn't know any different. I just went to where everybody always gravitated to in plants. So I don't even know anything else about plants now. I don't remember, but it was just a really fun job. And I did it for quite a long time because it was really good money. It was a lot more than just like the hourly wage at the time. So.
Okay, so you got commissions. This was your first taste of commission selling.
That's right.
What'd you learn about selling?
Looking back at it now, it was more about connecting with the people. I think people know what they want to buy, but when they trust you or they like you or they feel a connection with you, it's a lot more comfortable and it becomes a really positive transaction than just a transactional transaction. So for me, that was really important.
Yeah, because plants are plants, aren't they?
Yeah, plants are plants.
Okay, I can imagine young Jamie, 8th grade Jamie, giving someone a smile when they walked in the door and with poise guiding them over to the high margin plant section and making them feel pretty special.
Yeah.
Okay, so 8th grade Jamie is figuring out how to earn her own keep. Are you a saver or are you a spender in 8th grade?
No, I'm a saver. And I was thinking about this whenever we were talking about the podcast. I had to pay for everything. And I knew I wanted to be in drill team in high school. But in our high school, the drill team was really expensive, like I think $1,400 so that was a lot, right? Yeah. And so I had to save my money in order to be on the drill team. So that was my whole thing was saving.
Okay, and so do you have, I find folks have idiosyncrasies when they start as a kid, either as spenders or savers. Are you still a saver?
Still a saver,
okay.
Yeah.
Do you buy nice things for yourself and allow you to enjoy?
Sometimes. Yeah. Not often, but I have to remind myself to do that.
What'd you do? Cheer team in high school?
Yep, drill team.
There's a difference. There's a difference. I'm not from Texas.
Yes,
so.
There's a big difference in Texas,
Yeah, I'm not from Texas,
So I did that. I didn't want to be at home, to be honest, and so I did get another job. It was called Ice Delight. They're not around anymore. It's like Snow Cone Place. I became a manager.
Okay.
So I was working good 40-hour week in high school just to stay out of the house and make money for drill team. So that was kind of what I did to occupy my time during high school.
Okay, so Ice Delight. And so these were like ice cream, like a near ice cream?
Yeah, shaved ice.
Okay,
yeah.
Could be the greatest margin business ever.
Yeah.
Ice, sugared water. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, syrup.
Yeah.
Okay, did you sell a lot of ices?
Yeah, we did. Like it was fun. We'd always have a line outside, and we'd be a mess, hot mess, sticky, but we'd just sit there and talk to people as we're doing our little Ice Delights. It was a shop, and it was great. I did it for quite a while, 3 or 4 years.
I bet you did well. Okay, so you did Ice Delight, and then where'd you go after that?
Then I got in the restaurant business because at that point, my mother had passed away, and I was really on my own at that time. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to do?
How old were you?
18.
18.
So it's like, what am I really going to do at this point? So I got in the restaurant business because at that point, that was the best way to make decent, good money, working hard.
So 18 years old, did you have siblings?
A sister, yes.
Older, younger?
Younger.
Okay, so
4 years.
Were you taking care of her too?
No, she actually went to my aunt's house because she was in high school still.
Okay.
And I had just started college.
Okay, so this is a big, wide world right in front of you. What was that first restaurant?
The first restaurant was Aw Shucks on Greenville Avenue. It was a really fun place to work. Outdoor kind of seafood place. And I was living in Denton, so I would drive an hour every day. I'd go to school and drive an hour every day back just to go to that restaurant.
Okay.
I'm not really sure why I did that, but I did.
And so what drove you literally to drive an hour? Like a lot of kids, maybe by just need you did it?
Yeah,
or?
I think by need, I made good money. I was kind of in charge there. Yeah. You know, I tend to be in charge where I go to places. So they made me like a manager of that kind of place at the time. And I just fit in great there. It was a really loose but fun place to work.
So these are attributes that start to show early,
right?
Okay,
Looking back,
so you were starting to show that the capabilities of leadership even then. What'd you learn from that?
I learned that, I think that's where I really started learning that sky's the limit. Like if I worked hard, I could be rewarded for it. I didn't have to take an hourly job. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think I realized that I had control of what I was making.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah,
it
so
does.
I felt like that was the first time that I looked around and was like, okay, I'm in charge. I can do this. I've got control, and I can change my outcome.
Okay.
You know.
So I start to see this starting to come together. And this makes sense for a real estate career, which we're going to talk about in a second. You're working in the restaurant. What's next?
Yeah, I think, I don't know why I changed, but then I went to another restaurant called Pappadeaux.
Yep.
I think looking back, I probably changed there. It was a little bit of a nicer place. It was more proper, make a lot more money, and it was a little closer to my school.
Yep.
So I started there, had that fun time, and then they asked me to be in management.
Okay.
So the cool thing about Pappadeaux is that to be in management, you have to basically work every position. So busboy, hostess, bartender, server, everything. So it's a really cool challenge. And I think for me, I really like the challenge, but also the change. So being able to start somewhere, accomplish it, master it, and then go to the next, which is kind of like real estate. Everything's different every day. So I realized I really liked that part of it and became a really great manager at Pappadeaux, which then led me to Chicago. So they asked me to open up a couple of restaurants in Chicago.
Okay.
So I got to Chicago, and that's where I finished college.
That's great. So this is a career taking off. Mm-hmm. So how do you switch from a big growing restaurant career to the real estate path?
Okay, this is where I realized that I had a ceiling on me.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. I couldn't figure it out for a couple of years. But when I got to Chicago, I was, kitchen manager, the number 2, they called it. And I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't mine.
Yep.
And I felt like even if I got to the very top, which is the general manager spot, that I would always be hitting my head on a ceiling. And I just didn't like it.
You didn't like it?
Yeah, I didn't like it. So they actually offered me a position to come back to Houston as the catering manager for the Houston market.
Yep.
And I said no. And that's when I realized that I had the ceiling, and I decided to change to go to another path.
And that path was real estate.
No,
Okay.
it wasn't.
Okay, I love it.
It wasn't. So that path, actually, from there, I actually started my own cookie business.
Okay.
Up in Chicago, they have lots of markets. So
Yes.
we did a lot of fun markets and sold thousands of cookies, literally, like cookies. And I finally got our cookies into Whole Foods.
Wow.
But then I realized I wasn't making any money. I was working a whole lot, not making any money at all.
But selling thousands of cookies.
And it's a lot of work. And I was cooking them all.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I had
And where were you
a
cooking
friend
them?
at my house of all
Cooking
places.
them at your house.
Yeah.
I love these. I
Yeah.
love the story.
And
why weren't you making money?
I don't know. Maybe I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. I felt like I was working a whole lot of hours and not really seeing a lot of money at the end of it.
Yeah.
And I guess I just wasn't quite so passionate about it. Yeah. So from there, I met a friend. She was in real estate, and this is where real estate comes in. But she was very glamorous on the outside.
Yes.
And I was like, I like that. She was, her daughter was friends with my son at the time, and her stories were all awesome, and I never heard any of the horror stories, all the fun stuff, And I decided that's what I want to do.
You wanted to do, I've heard this story, inspirational characters draw so many people into their career paths, whether it be real estate or another one, right?
Yeah.
And do you remember her name?
Yeah, Eileen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you still ever bump into her?
No, we do on Facebook. She's actually a yoga teacher now.
Okay, good.
So she took a switch.
Okay.
But, I told her, I'm like, you just inspired me at the time. At the time, I was looking for something, and I thought it was really glamorous, and she got to pick her own schedule, all that kind of fun stuff. And we headed to Katy, Texas, and I started real estate in 2006.
And, in 2006. Mm-hmm. So you were in Dallas and you ended up in
Chicago.
Moving to, Chicago and then to Katy.
Yes.
And why Katy?
I Googled it, and my mother-in-law, she's the only grandparent that we have, right?
Yeah.
And so my mother-in-law lived in Houston at the time, and I Googled best places to live near Houston, and Katy popped up, and that's where we ended up.
Okay. And now Katy's not just been a place you've built your business, but we know a little bit about your family, too. A wonderful family. Katy's known for something else at the high school, isn't it?
Oh, football, of course.
Football.
Yes.
And what's the connection with football?
Okay, well, my son, I don't know where it started with him, except in kindergarten, he decided to play football. And so like every good parent, we threw all the passion that he had into it with us and made it a dream for him. And he has played ever since. We actually played Pee Wee, and then he played in junior high. But right before he started high school, he really said, I want to play for the Katy Tigers.
For the Katy Tigers.
Yes, and we weren't zoned to that school, and they were the best. And so we sold our house and moved so he could go play for the Katy Tigers.
Okay, so you literally sold your house, and I heard you say they are the best. They're still the best?
Yeah, they're still the best.
And paint this picture, because this is a kid that has never been to a big Texas football game, high school game. So is it like it is on the TV shows?
It is.
Big, bright lights.
Yeah, it's big, bright lights. Everybody goes. I still volunteer, even though I don't have kids that go to that school anymore. But it's just a community, fun, positive.
500 people show up for a game?
Minimum, sold out typically. I mean, it's just great. Yeah.
Okay, big night games?
Big night games. Everybody's dressing in red. People usually don't sit down. There's chants. It's just a lot of fun.
That must be blessed. So we have a tradition. One of the things I admire most in other people is graciousness and gifting. Because what's more fun than giving something that's meaningful to somebody else? I get great joy from that. So we thought about.
Oh, look at you!
What's the thing that
that's so awesome,
that I know has brought you tremendous joy that we've talked about is football. So here's the very first and only Tomo football.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I love it.
For you, and we'll both have to sign that afterwards.
Yes, that's perfect.
Yes, the Tomo football for yourself, I think.
And ironically, my son now plays for UT, which is the same color orange.
So it's the same color orange?
Yeah, so it's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're proud of him.
Oh my gosh, we're so proud of him, yeah.
Second year at UT.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to jump around on you if this is okay.
Yeah, do it.
Each of us innately have a superpower. And I think in a life's journey, some of us, it takes much of our life to recognize what's unique and valuable about us that's unusual from others, that the thing we want to amplify, and some find it early. I sense you found it early, is my sense. Can you see your own superpower?
I don't know that I would call it a superpower. It's kind of a hard question for me to answer sometimes.
Yes.
For me, I truly feel that none of us are better than anybody else. Like we're all the same people.
Sure.
We are all the same. My journey has been about making sure that no matter what the experience has been in your past, how you've been hurt, that we just keep growing and achieving. So for me, that's what I try to do within my work, at my house, is just to keep motivating, keep moving people forward and keep growing, because we're never going to be done, right?
Yep.
We're always going to be growing and moving and trying to get to that next step. But so for me, I feel like just empowering people to see that in themselves, that it doesn't really matter what's happened or anybody else. Like, stop comparing yourself to other people. We're all the same. It's just the experiences that have made us a little bit different.
I connect with that quite a bit, and I see that in how I've seen you conduct business.
Yeah.
I'd speculate from the sidelines, right? From the sidelines, not in your head, that you bring a bit of a humble ambition to things. And what's unique about how I've seen you practice business is there's a degree of humanity. You tend to be able to see people, not just see transactions.
Yes, yeah.
And I've seen you struggle to get the right folks in the right house with the right financial situation, and it's greater than just a transaction, and that is unusual.
I think being interested in people and not being interesting, like sitting back and watching and observing, whether you're buying a house, trying to do a project or whatever, and figuring out how you can help that individual achieve what they're trying to achieve, right?
Yeah.
So being interested in what their goals are and what they want to do, and just helping them problem solve or achieve. Yeah. For me, that's a big motivator.
Some of us learn that. Some of us are innately born with that. It's a really valuable skill to be able to see people and where they are and what they're trying to get to. It's called empathy, right?
Yeah.
And that's a superpower in what we do. Tell us about your business. What's the name of the business? This is for folks that might not even be in real estate. What are you doing?
We're the Jamie McMartin Group. We've been in business since 2006. Our team started right before COVID. So we started in January and COVID hit in March. Like, that was when the proper team started. But we're very passionate about our job. I've got a superpower leadership team. I call them the unicorns. They are really like special people to me, and they are very passionate about the same things that we're passionate about. So just making sure that people hit that next level and achieve their goals. We hold people accountable. I'm usually not called sweet. I'm not the sweet one, but I also am one that'll have your back and very loyal to people that are around me.
I believe that. So paint a little bit more. How many transactions do we do in 2022? Is it your own brokerage? Are you under a flag for folks that don't know? How many agents are on the team?
Sure.
Let's do a little sell in here.
We're with Compass.
Yeah.
We have 35 people on the team. So there's 24 agents. The rest are my support staff.
Wow.
Last year we did 565 transactions. So Pretty busy. Our average
Tremendous.
price point's about $415. So we're not super luxury market, but we're just in there with the thick of everybody else trying to make it.
That's good.
Yeah.
500 some odd transactions is got to be the top 5% in all of Texas. I mean, that's tremendous. Probably the top 1%. I should know that number. You probably do. You're just not saying.
Yes.
Tell us what.
It's like 0.5%.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I had the 5 right and not the point right.
That's right.
So 0.5%. Why you guys? Yeah,
What do you mean?
What drives you to the 0.5% in an incredibly competitive business with lots of practitioners?
Okay, so one of the big motivating factors that I had in my life, just to kind of go backwards a little bit, was I was at a point where I realized that I couldn't make it on my own. Like if I needed to make it on my own or if I needed to support myself, I couldn't do it. So that's what motivated me to really take off and just view the world a little bit differently in real estate. So for us, that's what I'm trying to build with our team is a bunch of solid agents that if something happened to me tomorrow, for example, that they would survive, that things would not crumble, that they would be able to take their business, high five each other, and just keep moving forward. For me, that is my absolute driver. I know it sounds silly sometimes, but it's just create people that are very self-sufficient on themselves and that they know they can make it. So that's my driver on a daily basis is just keeping that. And it's really changed my outlook on how I view things, honestly.
That clearly is magnetic to others, right? Or you wouldn't have the team size you did. How were you looking at things before?
I think that things were happening to me and not realizing that I had control over those things. Just being that, I can't believe this happened, or, oh gosh, I can't fix that or whatever. And it's like, no. I've got this. I'm in control here. I can make things happen. It may not be the easy way, and I don't personally think anything's ever going to be easy for the rest of our lives. I think if you really want something, you've got to work hard for it, and I think it's one of those things that you just can't stop doing. It's never going to be a spot where you stop and say, okay, I did it. There's always going to be more, right?
Okay, so an unsatisfied, dissatisfaction with wherever you are and where you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
The notion of independent teammates is really interesting. There's a business kind of philosophy, I guess you could call it, or way of thinking, which is there are two types of businesses or companies or leaders: a genius with 1,000 servants, or a genius who serves 1,000 teammates.
Yeah.
It sounds like and by the way, there are great examples of success in both those models.
Exactly.
Steve Jobs, the great example of a genius with 1,000 servants. Without Steve, they're just resizing the corners on iPhones. Still an incredibly successful company, but they're going from square to round circle corners.
Yeah.
There are other companies that seem truly independent of an individual. Google would probably be the other great tech example, and the Jamie McMartin team would be another great example where you've come to the decision that you're going to amplify those around you, and you don't need to be the center of every transaction, every decision. That takes an ego that seems to understand itself. How'd that happen?
I think from the want of people succeeding around me, I really feel the empowerment of people, and my team knows that I say this all the time. You've got to self-reflect. You've got to check yourself. You've got to ask yourself, are you really doing the work? If I'm not successful, it's not because I don't have what I need. It's because I'm not actually doing what I need to do to get there. And so for me, it's about having that self-realization within yourselves to catapult yourself, to hold yourself accountable. I started that. It was actually from one of my first meetings with Tom, and we were at a team event, and he was talking about, what do you want to do with your business one day? And I never really thought about that. And honestly, nobody could answer that question. Everybody was stumped. So I really went home thinking, I don't want to work this hard and something happened to me and it all goes poof. I would love to be able to look down from wherever I am and say, man, these guys did it. Not because I did it, but because they did it. The world didn't fall apart for them because something happened. Am I making sense?
Yeah, that's called legacy.
Okay, legacy, yeah.
That's called legacy.
Yeah.
And
because we all work so hard. We all, and blood, sweat, and tears. We, miss dinners maybe or something like that with your family. So it's why does it need to go poof up in smoke? It doesn't need to.
Yeah, you'd like to think that things have some lasting potential that we're all building in these businesses. That it's just not a moment in time and then it's gone.
Yeah. I have people, that leave us from our team, really great agents that have left, and nothing makes me more proud to see them succeed. right? Like that's what I love is, I'll check in with them every once in a while just to see what their production is or how they're doing. And if they're succeeding, that's like a high five. Like, I love that.
Yeah, so I had a moment not dissimilar from that. And if you have awareness, if you open your eyes, you have awareness, you can see things all around. I was in an Apple store at closing time, and I don't know, I was in some mall with my kid having cracked her phone screen for the 12th time.
Yeah.
And we were in there and finally bought insurance, thank God. And the whole staff lined up in a long line and started cheering and clapping.
Oh.
And I had the same reaction. Oh. And out walked one of the teammates in the Apple blue shirt, and it was their last day.
Oh.
And when a valued teammate is leaving to do something else in their life, Apple Retail has a tradition, which is at closing time, they cheer for the person. I found that really inspiring.
Yeah.
And adopted it in our own business, which is rather than feeling the loss of a valued teammate that leaves, we're now at Tomo trying to applaud the person and be grateful for them.
Yeah, that's great.
Life tends to pay you back. There's an elusive thing in software engineering called the level 10 engineer. Level 10 is someone that is capable of writing 10x the quality and the volume of code of software of what a typical engineer would write. And you only encounter a few level 10s in your careers. And so we had a level 10 at Tomo who had incredible impact, positive person, productive, insightful, asked amazing questions. I used to call him the questioner in chief because on our all hands, he would ask these zingers that were well-meaning, but like were so insightful. And he walked in one day and said, I have this opportunity. And your heart sinks. And he said, I have the opportunity to go from individual contributor to being VP at a prominent startup and running my own team. And I could not have done it without what I've learned at Tomo.
Yeah.
And after the moment of disappointment and hurt passed by, because I'm human and we all are, we said, we're so happy. How can we help you? And yet you see these things and you say them in your head and then you see you doing them. And he said, well, I've never managed a team before. Can I call you, Greg, and my partner, Carrie? And so we ended up going out. We said, of course, we're here for you. And we kept in touch over the next year with the guy. And one day he called it and said, it's not going to work. The capital hasn't arrived. There's problems with the business model. It's not going to work. Can I come back? And it was paying it forward. And often when you pay kindness forward, you're not looking for anything in return other than it makes you feel good, hopefully. But every once in a while it comes back to you. And he restarted about 2 weeks ago back at Tomo.
Awesome.
And has already had impact in 2 weeks and is on our most important project.
Yeah.
It's an example of this kindness and generosity that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears to real estate.
Okay.
So this is probably among the most interesting, challenging time in real estate that we've seen in a decade.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in Houston?
Houston market is pretty stable. We're always at slow and steady, right?
Yep.
You never see us go really high up or really low down. It's just that slow and steady pace right now, and we're still seeing that. Our market, too, is very kind of goes along with the school cycle. So we just started school, so we're kind of in a little bit of a slow period. We usually pick up right after Labor Day. So I really anticipate seeing that happening. Market share-wise, we're definitely positive on our market share so far, but it's been good. We've got that 250 to 500 mark. That's really our sweet spot right now.
Yep.
That's about 46% of all the deals happening right now. So.
And is it the same story as we read about across the country? Not that many listings.
Low inventory. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And what sells right now? Everything?
Not everything. I wish. Not everything, but the wow houses are selling. The houses with pools, the houses that have been taken care of, the houses that feel nice when you walk into them. And in that 250 to 500 spot, that's kind of our sweet little spot right now. We're still seeing multiple offers. I had a buyer just last weekend. We put in 3 or 4 different offers and finally got one. All of them had multiple offers. So you're still seeing it.
There's still people buying houses.
Oh, yeah.
And who's buying?
Everybody's buying. We'll just refinance, That's what we tell them. Like, just refinance later.
Just refinance later.
Get in a house.
Are there persona? These are first-time home buyers? Are these folks relocating? Or are these just folks that want to change?
It's just all the above, honestly. We typically in Houston get a lot of relocation clients with the oil and gas and then California, the medical industry. So we always see an influx of relocation clients. So for us, that's a pretty big standard. And then you see people trying to move up and then first-time home buyers. The one that we had multiple offers in was a first-time home buyer. So
first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. There's this notion that it's not a good time to buy. You can't buy right now because of mortgage rates. They will ultimately come down.
Oh, yeah.
And folks will go ahead and refi.
Right.
and they'll readjust their expense base as long as they have the opportunity right now. We were just looking at credit standards. So those getting mortgages today have credit standards that are about 30, 40 points higher than they were pre-pandemic. So our credit standards have improved.
Yep.
Folks have saved a little bit more too.
Yep.
And they're buying houses. Take us through source of business. That's always one of the big challenges in real estate is demand. Where to get demand from? Where are you getting buyers and sellers from?
We always have been very good at having different lead pillars. So in the past, it was a lot of online leads, and honestly, those aren't quite as good right now. We're leaning very heavily into our past clients, our SOIs, people that know us around the community, and really just engaging back in those conversations because, as you probably know, the last 2 years have developed some really bad habits for agents, right? We just were very transactional. You got people coming at you at all areas, writing offers, and now you actually have to go back and actually develop the relationship, talk to people, actually pick up the phone and call them, which is a little bit different than what we were doing 2 years ago. So we've actually had some agents that started in the business during COVID that know no different. So for us, it was that moment of, okay, yes, we've got to reteach our team to make sure that they are really hitting what's happening in the market. Because if you're not pivoting with that, I don't know that that would be a good long-term strategy. I don't think that you'll be able to make it if you're still working like you did in the pandemic.
You said SOI, sure. Sphere of influence,
Sphere of influence, your people.
Yeah, your people, your database.
Yeah.
And does that mean calling the database and emailing it and sending
all the above, and adding value, not just I'm checking in.
Okay, so if I'm your young agent and I've got a little database but I don't know what to do, what are you teaching me to do on SOI? What do I want to do?
We've got a whole training system that we have on this, but really it's just picking up the phone, talking to them about their future goals. Do they have any plans for their home? Are you going to remodel? Are you planning to sell one day? So really just having those conversations so that you build that trust. It's not like, okay, let's sell your home. You don't want to go in and go for the kill. It's more about developing the reputation and being the resource for those people so that when they do have questions, they call you. For example, I had this guy, I hadn't talked to him in a while, honestly, and he's sitting there about to sign for solar screens or solar panels. And so he called me and he said, you just popped in my head. I know we haven't talked for a bit, but what do you think about this? So we spent 30 minutes talking about the pros and cons of solar screens or solar panels. And so I think things like that are where we can add value that we weren't doing in the last couple of years.
But you didn't get paid for that 30 minutes.
No, we didn't. But when he wants to sell, he's going to call me.
He is.
Yeah, he is.
He is definitely going to call you.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting pivot because you're right. With internet leads, which I imagine are still a powerful source of biz, it was transactional, fast, speed to lead.
Right.
Now you're teaching the team to broaden it. Is everyone getting over the line?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the great thing about being connected with Tom Ferry ecosystem, all that fun stuff, is that I feel like we make changes a lot sooner than maybe the average agent. So we made these changes back in July, August. Does everybody follow that? It takes a while for the agents to really go like, oh, yes, you are right. But I know now that everybody in our team at least has bought into it. They know we're right. Whether they want to do the work or not is a whole other story, but it's like they know that we're on to something with that. You just can't keep doing what you were doing.
You can't. You got to be trying new things. You have to have courage and belief.
That's right.
And confidence. Okay, here's an interesting crystal ball question.
Okay.
Fast forward a year. What do you think interest rates are in a year from now?
I think we'll see them back down in the 5s.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be crazy fun.
And why do you think you're going to see interest rates in the 5s?
I think with the way that the market's moving, I think that we're just going to see that. The lack of inventory, I think that we're going to see the changes that are needed to be made. The inflation's going to have an impact. I think we're going to see all of that kind of shift. In Houston, it's going to be fun.
And what happens when interest rates are in the 5s to real estate, you think?
I think for us, we'll see our prices go up, and I'm hoping that we'll see a lot of sellers come out.
Yeah, sellers come out. And that's one of the most interesting parts of this real estate economy, right?
Right.
Which is interest rates go up, sellers often are also buyers. They're not moving to a hotel.
Right.
So what's really holding back this market and keeping prices sky high, the Fed chair, if you're listening right now, Jerome, this is what's holding back a big part of the economy is sky high interest rates.
Right.
Prevent folks from listing their homes because they have to buy another house because they've got a cheap mortgage.
Yep.
Right? And so then there's not enough inventory, supply, demand, prices stay high. People lack affordability, and then housing drives inflation, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so one of the principal ways where we can cool the inflation a little bit is by broadening housing availability so the buyer and seller thing gets more in balance.
That's right.
And interest rates in the fives will certainly do that.
Yeah. I had the same conversation with the client yesterday. She is in a house. She wants to buy a new house, but her rate is I think she said 3.2, and she just didn't want to give it up.
Yep. I understand.
Yeah.
It's an emotional connection to that low number. Okay. You have a magic wand. You don't care about the cost. You could change one thing in the real estate industry.
Wow.
You have an all-powerful magic wand. Maybe you could even do it anonymously. No one will know you're the one doing it. What one thing would you change in the real estate industry if you could change anything?
Do we have time for like a small story?
Of course.
Okay, so Passionate to Me, we have a program with our group. I am always in awe of all the information and stuff I learn from people that have been in the business longer than me.
Okay.
What I find very sad is that typically when you get out of real estate, you literally poof up into the sky.
You disappear.
You just disappear. Yep. And all the time that you spent developing your systems, your relationships, the nights you missed dinner, the time that you weren't in the moment, all that stuff is literally just kind of gone in an instant. I would love to have some kind of retirement program, some kind of legacy where agents have a place to go where they can still make some passive income. They can still get their hard work rewarded. They don't have to be in the transaction. So we have a smaller program with us called The Legacy. Basically the same thing. So we want agents that are at the end of their career to come to us, let us take over their database, let us co-market with them so that they have some passive income and they still get to enjoy all the hard work that they did. So for me, it's taking care of that group of people at the very end, not necessarily end of their life, but the end of their career with real estate. And whether that be a retirement program, insurance, whatever it is, but it seems like we work so hard and then we're at the end and then we're like, what happens?
What happens?
Yeah.
And so this is the thread throughout our time here together is you see people.
Yeah.
And you think about them and it's both good business, but it also probably is what drives you.
Yeah.
That might actually be your superpower. Is you actually can see these people and you can see whether it be a customer or an agent or family, and you're motivated by that. That's kind of an awesome gift to have. So many big time iconic leaders and executives, including, I'm not iconic, but including this one, feel like an imposter sometimes.
Yeah.
Tell me about, does that ever impact you?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I actually got a life coach at the beginning of January because I was walking around and people would say, oh, you're great. Oh, you're perfect. Oh, this, oh, that, Queen of Katy. And the outside may have looked that way, but the inside didn't feel that way. And so for me, this year has been a self-discovery year where I don't have a lot of goals in place. I'm really trying to listen to my intuition, feel what makes me happy, and try to make that connection so I don't feel like an imposter. Because there have definitely been times where I do.
Yeah, that is mind-blowing. I've known you for a few years now. You have poise and presence, and you're thoughtful. If you feel like an imposter sometimes in real estate, who isn't, right?
Yeah.
That's very kind of you to share, and I bet heartening to folks that would listen to this, because I bet in moments in their own lives, especially a young agent starting out or a young loan officer at Tomo, I bet they feel terribly insecure about what they don't know.
That's right. Yeah. So I think the answer to that is to be okay with that and just to keep moving forward.
Those that think they've figured it out often know the least, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Curiosity is awesome.
That's right.
Plus a great football.
Yes.
Okay, this is really fun.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.